Welcome to The Growth Equation. This isn't your typical business podcast. We're keeping it real about the challenges of scaling up, period. I'm Tristan Wright and I've been there. I've built and scaled my own business. I've sold it. I've learned a ton along the way. Now I'm bringing you the no BS stories of founders who are in the trenches right now, navigating that messy middle. We're talking advertising, marketing, design, creative, branding, the whole 9 yards. Doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or running a team of 100. Everyone's got a secret sauce, that thing that makes them different, better. We're going to uncover it. So grab a coffee and let's get real. Today we're talking to Hannah from Divergent Media. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we've been trying to connect and do this podcast for many weeks. We've had so many different, we'll call them excuses or reasons. Like last time we were about to connect and there was a generator going outside my front window, so we had to cancel. And then almost today, there was a hammer drill going outside your front window. So
Correct.
we're finally here.
Yes, absolutely. Finally here.
Actually, the very first time that we were about to connect was, I thought you were still in Brisbane, and
Correct.
it was the time of the hurricane or the ex-tropical cyclone. And I sent you an email the morning before or the night before saying, I'm assuming you're going to need to cancel, so let's cancel. But you'd actually just moved overseas a couple of weeks. We may as well start there and tell us that story.
Okay, so the whole purpose of my business when I started it over a decade ago now was that once I was an empty nester, which I am now officially an empty nester, I was going to take my show on the road, so to speak, and take my business traveling. So I have been in Colombia and Panama and the US for these last 6 months. I keep just, popping around. I'm using Colombia, Medellin as my kind of like home base, so to speak, on this side of the world. But yeah, just wanting to explore the world, still working Monday to Friday. But of course on the weekend.
From a different location.
Exactly, working from a different location. So, but each weekend I just go to explore something new, whether it's a cultural thing or, hiking or whatever it is that I want to do.
So when you set up Divergent Media, was it always your goal to be able to run a remote business or run a business from a different location?
Yes, correct. That was one of my primary goals. I've always been into travel, and as we know, it's rather hard when you've got the kids and, I was a single mum at that time as well. So traveling with two younger kids, it wasn't always going to be an affordable option for me at that stage too. But, it was always a goal of mine. I designed it specifically to be remotely right from the beginning. I never had, a shop front, so to speak.
Yeah, wow. And so that was about 10 years ago that you did that. So I imagine there's been so many changes along that journey. So, and there might have been times that you thought, why am I actually doing this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To begin with, it was just me. I was myself building out websites, doing SEO, Google Ads, all that kind of stuff. And as you grow, you need more team members, and hiring team members was really quite challenging. And it's not a challenge that's going to just disappear automatically. No matter large your business becomes. So they obviously set up systems and protocols in place to help with some of those challenges. But definitely as I expanding my team was one of my biggest challenges.
So let's take a step back. Divergent Media. Where did the name Divergent Media come from?
So I like thinking outside the box, So I kind of just was playing around with words, and I've got the tagline, escape from the crowd, so Divergent Media, escape from the crowd, because that's what digital marketing is all about, is getting that online brand and presence out there. And I don't look at a website or a marketing campaign as traditional black and white, this is what you got to do and you'll succeed. You've always got to push boundaries, try new things, We've got new technologies hitting our doorsteps every single day now with AI. So it's not enough to do what you did yesterday. You've got to keep on top of the tech.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what does Divergent Media do?
So
You're a media marketing company. I just want to give everyone a bit of a background on the business before we dig into it a tiny bit further.
yeah, sure. So I love working with local based businesses, local service based businesses in particular. So um, there's so many big corporations out there. And at the end of the day, it's your mum and dad businesses that really drive every single country, no
Yeah.
matter where you are in the world. So I love helping them. They're the ones who usually have tech challenge issues, for example, or they may have, other kinds of, don't know the technology, the new stuff that's coming along, for example. So it's great to be able to help those people rather than, big corporations. So I do websites, local SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, that kind of stuff.
So you can actually see that the impact that you have, kind
Oh,
of things.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now you keep saying the conversations, you've got a team as well. So
Correct.
part-time, full-time, freelancers, what does the team look like?
So I have freelancers, but they pretty much all work full time for me at this
Yeah.
stage. There's not approximately, there's 7 of them. And so I'm, number 8, of course. So I have, VAs, project managers, now SEO specialists, Google ads specialists. So rather than me wearing all the hats and trying to stay up with every single, nuance of a platform, I now have a team that can help me, okay, websites, we need to now do this, So yeah, 2
Yeah,
developers,
awesome.
content writers, like it just goes on.
Why have you chosen freelancers as opposed to permanent staff members?
Well, again, to support the biggest goal, which was to work remotely. If
Yeah.
I had that whole, I'm based in Australia, I'm hiring an Australian, then that was going to be rather challenging because of, the rules and regulations of hiring people in Australia. Then on top of that, being able to work in different time zones is also handy. At the moment, I'm over on this side of the world, so I can work in the US market a lot easier. Whereas when I'm in the Australian market, I'm getting up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to speak with my US
Mm.
customers. So having a global team also helps me facilitate fulfilling our work, basically.
So everything we've talked about so far seems like it's been a nice, smooth journey from when you started business. Now, you and I both know that's not the case. And part of the purpose of this podcast is to show other business owners that you can, even if you're successful, there's always a story behind the scenes. So, and I want other business owners to know that not everyone has a perfect journey and you can still achieve your goals. So I want you to share a bit about your journey and tell us that, hey, we can still achieve our goals even though we have hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. So to begin with, I was actually going through a divorce when I started my whole new career, basically. Like I was looking for something for myself to do. I found, what was it, graphic design. And in graphic design, one of my assignments was to build a website,
So this was about 11 years ago.
probably about 12, 13 years ago now. And so when I first started then dabbling and doing websites, I was going through, unfortunately, a very horrible divorce. And, I found that the more I worked on myself, the more my business grew. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit cliched, but I've got a saying, and I hope you don't mind me saying it, but it's Jim Rowan's saying about work on your job and you'll make a living, work on yourself and you'll make a fortune.
So we're going to dig into Jim Rohn for a second.
Okay.
So, because I like Jim Rohn, do you know who his biggest protege?
Tony Robbins.
Yes. So many people are so grateful for everything that Tony Robbins does, but not many people know that he learned like everything from Jim Rohn. So
consumed everything of his, all his cassettes, his books, to all his events. He just,
yeah,
absolutely. I know, it's
yeah.
amazing.
So anyone that likes Tony Robbins stuff, if you want the real stuff,
The
go and learn
OG.
from Jim Rohn
Yeah,
because
OG.
go to the OG because so much. Tony Robbins has put the sales angle on it and he's put the pressure on it. We're talking original 70s, 80s, 90s content as opposed to the, I'm going to be slightly controversial, the slimy side that Tony Robbins brings to it.
Yes, absolutely. I do get what you mean. It is very salesy, but at the same time, at least there's still really good messaging in there too.
Yes. So, okay. So you were learning from Jim Rohn. He said, work on yourself and your
Mhm.
business will grow from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what was happening. So I started working on my self development, just simple stuff, confidence, self esteem, being able to talk to people again, because you do kind of get, wiped out when you go through an event like that. So
Mm.
it was just the simple things to begin with. Then, of course, learning more about business and not just okay, reading this or doing that, just really being excited to learn about the business, like how can I make my business grow this way? And, for me, I'm very fortunate. I really love digital marketing. So it's like, well, if I'm applying digital marketing to other clients and they're growing, then clearly if I
Mm.
start applying those same principles to my business, I'll start growing. So, you just start looking at things so very differently once you start working on yourself. A no isn't a no, it's a learning experience of some kind.
Yes. Yeah. It's one step closer to a yes. You've got to be very careful with how I'm saying that.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand why it's a no and what you actually want and how to get closer to that.
Correct, correct. And not being afraid to make the mistakes. Look, we speak about entrepreneurs so often. And, how many times did Richard Branson, for example, fail before he made all his successes? Like
Exactly.
any of our big successful entrepreneurs that we all know and love, they have literally failed more times than they have succeeded. But we only just see the success and we only see the fun side of the journey. We don't see all the bumps along the way.
So what's the second biggest fast food chain in Australia?
Second, I'd probably say KFC.
That's what I would say as well. The founder of KFC, do you know how old he was when he founded
In his
KFC?
60s, wasn't he? In his 60s.
Something along those lines, maybe late 50s,
Yeah.
60s. So you don't have to be in inverted commas, super successful in your 20s or 30s. Everyone's on their own journey, on their own roadmap, on their own. They've got different goals. So we don't have to compare ourselves to the next person.
Oh, that's exactly right. 100%
Right.
agree.
All right. So let's keep going. Jim Rohn started working on yourself, business started.
Mm-hmm.
Or went from graphic design to starting a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how is that? Was it, yep, straight away, I'm going to keep growing it? Or were you freelancing to start with?
Yeah, definitely. I was freelancing to begin with. So it was a simple thing of a couple of my friends saw me build the website that I had for my assignment. So they asked me to build their websites. I've gone, yeah, well, it's fun. Let's do that. So I started doing that. And then from there, I realized, I could obviously make a business from it. And I had to obviously have a big learning curve as this was my second career. And I really needed to, just jump head first, learn
What
everything
was
as
your
I go.
first career? Just out of interest, what did you do prior to this?
I was actually a police officer.
Wow, so that's a big change. So going from being on the front line and serving the community, let's say, you're still serving the community, but
Correct.
in a totally different way.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that really drew me to digital marketing and why I like working with your mum and dad type businesses is because I still feel like I'm helping at the end of the
Yes.
day.
Yeah, yeah. So and you're just helping them in a totally different
Yeah,
way.
in a totally different way.
And this is an interesting point. A lot of the time that you might be extremely talented at what you do, but you can't grow your business.
Mhm.
And part of the reason is you're trying to serve yourself over serving others. Like you're are you coming from it from the correct angle? And
Mhm.
the angle you're coming from is that you want to help others, and you're putting them at the forefront of your mind in your conversations and your communication with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Their business is my business at the end of the day. Like that's how I look at it. So definitely.
So, all right. So we're growing our business. Has it been
Mhm.
smooth sailing through growing the business?
Absolutely not. In Australia in particular, there are obviously a lot of other challenges that you experience in the sense of like the tax world and, GST. When you start growing, you have to start charging it. When do you start applying it? So there was a lot of
Mm,
things that I had to learn at a business level, of course. Also, when to start outsourcing some of the work when I started getting too busy, like what was I doing the most that I could now start outsourcing, which was the website side of things. So I had my first website developer and I was everything else. And then after that, it was content writer and then, Google ads. And it just kind of like grew and grew and grew. So whatever I was doing, like I was kind of like time blocking and tracking my time and what I was doing and whatever I was doing the most of, I would start trying to find that freelancer to fill that space for me.
yeah, nice. So the most of or the lowest value, so to speak.
Well, a combination of both, really. Yeah, combination of both. That's a really good point because there's obviously some things that have got a high value that you might be doing a lot of work on that still requires your attention. So, for example, at the moment now, sales. So, even though I could go hire a sales team member, I don't want to do that until I have everything 100% right for my business before I
Mm.
start offloading that to somebody else. So that way I know what they're doing is right or I know what they're doing is wrong. So it's really
And
important to know
aligns
inside.
with your business.
Exactly. Exactly right.
So you need to understand the process and how it's done. So
Mhm.
now there's an argument that why don't you just bring in an expert? So why wouldn't you just bring in an expert that is good at this rather than you teaching yourself?
Well, absolutely. There's a very good argument for that point. The way I look at it is the more detail you know about that role, then the easier it is for you to grow your business. Because, for argument's sake, if a client, I'm going to relate it back to digital marketing because that's my space. If a client starts asking me about Google Ads, even though I've now got a Google Ads specialist, I can right there and then answer their questions without having to go, let me get back to you on that. So I know the ins and outs. For the sales process, for example, I'm very heart-centered entrepreneur. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm passionate about what I do, and people can see and hear and feel that when I talk to them in a sales meeting or,
Mm.
whenever I'm going over anything. So they can then relate and go, yeah, I know she's going to work hard for us. That's great. Yes, somebody who's employed can have that passion, but until I've got all the ins and outs worked out on the sale process, I'm not going to hand that over until I know that, okay, this is how it's done. A, B, C, D, this is the steps. I know that I can generate, out of 100%, 25% turns into sales. So if you're not hitting 25%, then we've got to look at what you're doing. What are you doing that's different to what I'm doing? Because you should be doing at least 25% as an example.
Yeah. And it's a continuous learning journey for both you and the people that you bring in. So um, it's almost like from the sales angle is yes, you need to be good at it, but you also need to bring someone else in eventually so you can learn from them and grow together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things when I look at whenever I get a new person in, with some sort of freelancer, that they have skills that not just are the same as mine, but hopefully better. So that way we can then keep on growing the company in that kind of fashion. It's like, oh, I know you do this XYZ, but because of my experience here, I'd love to add on that. Fantastic. Let's do that. So I'm not going to be the be all and end all, but I do need to have a really good understanding of that role before I offload it to somebody.
Spot on. So through this journey, it hasn't been smooth sailing. What's your lowest points that you've had throughout? Like you've got a business where you're overseas now, so you've done well and you've learnt. But I want to hear some of the lows, the low points that no one else talks about.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously a big low point, and for a lot of businesses, was when everybody got shut down for COVID. So we got shut down for COVID. I lost nearly all of my clients because they all got shut down. They're all service-based businesses. And in Australia, they weren't, because I had more Australian clients than I had the US clients at that stage. And they all had to close down themselves. And it was really tough then because I quite literally couldn't get any support from the government either. So I was literally left hanging in the wind when we all shut down for COVID. And I had to rebuild once we started opening up again.
So
that's
when
one of
you
my
say
biggest lowest.
rebuild, like how long did you lose your clients for? Like, was it?
Well, some of them were really devastated, by COVID themselves. So it took them quite some time to, get back into the swing of things. Others decided to make a change, not necessarily change, digital marketing companies, but so many people were so reluctant to spend money after COVID because of everything. So they just kind of like cancelled their services, So
Yeah.
it took a while to get people to come back to digital marketing.
What did that do for you? So how much revenue did you lose, let's say, overnight?
Oh, it was close to $15,000, $20,000 a month.
Yeah. So it's not a small amount that you lost. Like for a business that's got whatever time, 5, 6, 7 freelancers in there, like that's a significant amount of revenue when some of those staff some are on Australian salaries, some are international salaries. So how did you rebuild? Like, did you take that opportunity to restructure, change your offer? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. When we were talking about it before, every no, there's a silver lining, so to speak. So I took this as an opportunity to restructure, have a look at what I'm doing, have a look at what my offer is. Obviously, I had an offer that would help people after they, were coming back as well. So we addressed that for people too. So it really gave me an eye-opening perspective in the sense of, okay, if this happens again, what have I got to fall back on? Like everybody should be thinking about that these days. If my doors close again tomorrow, I know they say it's not going to happen, but for argument's sake, if it did happen, how are you still going to be able to keep your business up and going? Like some people succeeded through COVID because they took the opportunity to take something that they did in person to online, for argument's sake. So there were some businesses that absolutely prospered because what was the cliched word back then? Pivoted. Like they made a pivot. They approached their business at a different angle and they were able to succeed. So I did take this opportunity or that opportunity to really dive into, how else can I make sure I'm moving forward, paying the bills at the end of the day, just like everybody else. So I brought in a lot more software services that, people need no matter what's happening.
So when you say was that software or soft services?
Software.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
So for example, a business may need Google reviews. So I have a software that, can set that up. So that's, one of the examples. I have, many others in there, but basically software that people would still generally need to use.
So basically making yourself sticky.
Yes,
in a sense.
That's a good way of describing it. I love it.
They need your services to keep functioning.
Correct. Exactly. And even though if they're hit hard, we can still scale down, but I'd still get some sort of revenue from them.
Yeah. So let's say in mine, keeping in mind that your ultimate goal was to be able to run your business remotely and travel, which you're doing now.
Mhm.
Let's say there's another business owner that's similar to you. What was your secret sauce? What were the steps that you needed to take to be able to make yourself location independent?
Be location independent where you are, where you currently are, like it's not about doing it when you start traveling. Like I was, as I mentioned, I was a single mum with 2 kids. So I'm there doing school runs, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, so I needed to be able to have the flexible hours to work and be able to work remotely. I quite literally, my son, he would go to TAFE and I would train it in with him in Brisbane, and I would spend the day in the park doing work whilst he was at TAFE because that's what we had set up at that stage. So being independent, remotely, even back then was important to know I could do it moving forward. So really testing it out, being independent, being remote right there and then in your business, not just as I'm going to flick a switch and it's going to happen.
How much of it is mindset, do you think?
Honestly, I think everything's mindset. I've even got that on my Facebook profile. It's everything's the mindset one that and 10%. Like it's like everything is your attitude and 10% is your mindset. Other way around. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
90% is your mindset and 10% is your attitude. Like it's just all about your mindset. If you can do it this way, there's no reason why you can't do it that way. You've just got to get your head around it.
Yep. So we've spoken mindset, attitude just now, and making sure so you're testing yourself in location to be location independent.
Mhm.
But that's cool. What about the actual physical steps? Is it how do you train your clients? How do you train your staff? How do you design your services?
Mhm.
What process did you go through for that?
Well, again, this was a plus that came out of COVID. People started to work more remotely or, hop on a Zoom call. So that was actually a benefit with my clients. People were more prepared to talk on the phone or to do a Zoom call rather than face to face. So that was a plus. It's all about onboarding for me, like for the client side of things. The more information, the more detail you give them, the more expectations, everything you lay it out, the happier they'll be at the end of the day. If you're on the same page, it'll work no matter, the location. With regards to the staff, again, the same principle. You onboard them properly. You make sure what you expect out of them. So we still have weekly meetings, for example. With some of my team members, I have 2-3 times a week where I'm having a meeting with them because of, what their role is. So again, it's about setting those expectations, setting up, for me, I'm in one side of the world, they're on another side of the world. So it's working out, being a little bit flexible and working out what time zone is going to suit us to do those meetings. So that covers clients, that covers the staff, freelancers. And for the physical side of things, it's working out what's important that you need to do to achieve your goal. So for me, internet and computer, that's all I need. As long as I have an internet and computer, I can quite literally work anywhere in the world. So you need to drill down on what is it that you physically need to perform your task. If it's just an internet and computer, you're good to go.
I love it. I love it. So, all right. So, one point of advice. So, what's one piece of secret sauce that you wish Hannah from 5 years ago knew?
Honestly, I'm going to circle back around to the, self-development side of stuff. It'll happen, have faith. And you've got to feel and believe that now, even though that's still in the future. Like my biggest hurdle was overcoming myself.
Mhm. So, it's overcoming yourself. No, so overcoming your limiting beliefs.
Correct.
So, look at you now compared to where you were 15 years ago as a police officer. Like, you've
Mm,
totally changed. You've been able to reinvent yourself and change your lifestyle.
absolutely. For sure.
That's awesome. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect?
Well, depends on what they like. We could do it social media, we could do email, we could do phone calls. That doesn't worry me. I can give you those details and we can put it up there.
We'll put them in the show notes. But if people Google Divergent Media, it's going to be pretty easy to find you, I imagine.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. You'll find my Instagram, Facebook, websites.
Awesome. Hannah, thank you very much for your time today.
No, thank you. It's been fun. Thank you very much.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into The Growth Equation. If you've enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It helps us big time. Catch you next time. And if you want more, head over to evolvetogrow.com.au for show notes and exclusive content.